Congressman Massie, good morning. You were one of the first people to come out and defend the students from Covington Catholic when that video went viral over the weekend and they were shoved kind of into a social media firestorm. Why did you feel it was important to come out on their behalf?
Well, I thought a lot of people rushed to judgment. I almost rushed to judgment when I saw the first viral video. But and people issued statements, but if you watch the full videos, then you realize that these kids were actually heroes. At least Nick Sandmann was, and you know, they've been thrown under the bus by literally everybody, and very few people have been willing to walk their initial statements back. So I felt like, you know what, I represent them in Washington, D.C., and it's my job to make a strong statement in support of them.
Is there anything that you can do as a lawmaker to stop some of this stuff that's happening with social media? I mean, Twitter actually took down the account that originated that first piece of video because the account wasn't what it purported to be. Is there anything that our lawmakers in Washington can do about some of this stuff?
There might be things that we could do. But are there things that we should do? I don't know. We've had hearings on social media and the bias that exists in social media, but I'm a free market person myself, and I would prefer for the free market to settle this out. I'm not sure that my colleagues are equipped to censor the internet and decide what should be free speech and what should be considered harassment. So for right now, I think a light touch is best. And I'm not in favor of any legislation to censor or control the internet by the government.
Okay, here on a much more local basis, though, Congressman, the kids went back to school today. Many of them have told us they're scared. Many parents have told us that they're scared for the safety of their children. The principal also mentioned that in his letter to parents, that he had heard from parents who were concerned about their safety. What needs to happen now?
Well, you know, Nick received death threats. His parents received death threats. The entire school was threatened. My concern is the chilling effect that this is going to have on other future possible trips to Washington, D.C. by school children. Nick's mom told me that when she signed that release form, she never envisioned that this was going to happen to her kid in Washington, D.C. And I'm worried that other parents are going to have that same concern. So this story, this needs to have a happy ending. I mean, the student who's central to this, Nick Sandmann, needs to be exonerated quickly. And you know, kids need to feel welcome in Washington, D.C.
Have you spoken to the bishop of the Diocese of Covington or to any of the school leaders about the situation?
I haven't talked with the bishop or the school leaders. I do know their position is to form a committee and to investigate. The problem with that is these kids need exonerated now. We're in a 24-hour news cycle, and the social media cycle is even shorter than that. So I wish they were as quick to retract their initial statements as they were to issue them, but they're not. So that's another reason that I've come out in support of these kids. Somebody in some position high up needs to basically counterbalance the negativity that these kids are encountering. Because if you don't, you are encouraging, in a way, the death threats and all of the ill will that's come down upon this school.
And continues to come down, and there are still people online fighting about this, saying the kids are in the wrong, or the people who shot the video are in the wrong, or Mr. Phillips is in the wrong, or the black Hebrew Muslims are in the wrong. I mean, the fighting is just vitriolic. What do you think it says about our nation?
We're very divided, and unfortunately, social media has helped that divide occur. Part of the problem is the anonymity with which you can conduct and issue your statements on the internet. I think it leads to a meaner internet, and I'd like to see us come together on this. Some people, as you said, are attacking the military history of the instigator of this issue. I'm not going to do that. I don't think more attacks are in order. Some people are trying to go back in the history of CovCath and try to find some bad behavior of the students prior in order to smear the students who are there now. I think that's wrong too. Most reasonable people have come to the conclusion that these students were basically students, and they did nothing wrong. They did nothing criminal. They behaved actually like most students would behave. In fact, Nick himself has behaved honorably, and I want to commend him, not condemn him.
Okay, Mr. Massie, I want to switch gears a minute to the government shutdown. Some federal workers are feeling pretty hopeless, going now for a month without pay. What can you tell your constituents about what you're doing to see an end to this shutdown?
Well, you know, one of the things that we could do that I've proposed is actually open up the government for the essential workers. In other words, pay the officers that work as prison guards, to pay the TSA employees, to pay the air traffic controllers. If we can't resolve the shutdown now, then perhaps we should fund the essential workers, and then this could become about the non-essential functions of government instead about the things that everybody relies on.
You voted against a bill recently that would have guaranteed back pay for federal workers after the shutdown was over. Are you against back pay, or were you against the part in the bill that said that would have affected future government shutdowns as well? To explain where you were thinking on that.
Right. Yeah, I went to the floor ready to vote for that bill. I thought it was like all the bills that I've seen prior where we say we're going to pay people when the shutdown's over. But what I discovered before the vote was called is that this bill affects every shutdown in the future. And I think it's dangerous for Congress to basically take out of the federal payroll, out of the discretionary spending that we have to approve, and put it into mandatory spending. There's another reason I voted against that bill. I think it gives politicians cover. It's not going to solve the problem we have today with the TSA workers not getting paid right now, but it gives politicians cover, and I think it will cause the shutdown to go on longer since politicians have that cover, and I think it will cause more shutdowns in the future because politicians will have the cover when they go into the shutdown.
Congressman Massie, thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks. Great speaking with you.
You as well. Take care.